Nurture and support. Nurture and support. This is a podcast theme song. And it's really short.
Nurture and support begins in 3, 2, 1.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Nurture and Support, a recommendation podcast. I'm Kelly Toole at KELLYTHUL on Twitter, and with me, as always, advancing the Amazon Prime Directive, knitting in her free time, is Mel.
Hey everybody, I'm Mel at Karmic9 on Twitter, and it's great to be back for another week of sharing all the awesome. Hopefully we bring some awesome for you today, but you never know.
Yeah, yeah, but we're confident that there'll be at least a sliver of awesome in here for you somewhere. It'll probably be Mel, but that's okay. I'm at peace with that. So we'll go ahead and get rolling. I'm going to do a little bit of a different recommendation today. It's going to be kind of a travel recommendation, if you will, and it's a very niche-y travel recommendation. So.
This sounds expensive, Kelly. You're all about free, and this sounds like this is going to cost me money.
Well, it will, but so it costs you money to get there, but what my recommendation is all about while you're there, how you save money, how you do things on the cheap, how you do that, and so. I've had the opportunity through kind of various responsibilities and work and et cetera to occasionally hit conferences in the beautiful city of Las Vegas, Nevada. And so my recommendation today is cheap ways to kill time in Las Vegas and that are legal. So that's all. We're gonna stay that way from that. And it's a very interesting place, Las Vegas, if you've never been there. But some of the primary purposes of Las Vegas in terms of separating you from large amounts of your money don't particularly appeal to me. I don't really have a lot of satisfaction out of watching lots and lots of my money go away. So I don't mind going into a casino and doing something, but I want to do it in a way that, as they say, Las Vegas was not built on everybody winning. They are able to build those big hotels because most people don't win and leave their money there. So I tried to say, how do you stretch your dollar out? And so whether it's doing a little bit of gaming, eating, or just killing time, I wanted to kind of talk about some of the techniques that I've used. So this will not be high roller. This will be low roller activities for you, without a doubt. And I'm going to talk about two main areas of Las Vegas. For those of you not super familiar, there's the Strip, where you see most of the really big major hotels, Planet Hollywood, Caesar's Palace, Bellagio, Paris, etc. And then there's Old Las Vegas, or downtown, which is basically the core of that is Freemont Street, although now they've started an additional Fremont Street East, that there's some more things at too. And we'll talk a little bit about both. So I'm going to start off with the gaming part because I don't have quite as much on that because, like I said, I am not a serious gambler. I don't want to put a lot of money down. However, if you do want to avail yourself, and what has become the number one activity in Vegas and any of the casinos are the slot machines. And the slot machines have over time grown into be almost close to video games in terms of some of the entertainment. There's mini games, there's seats that shake, there's 3D type of stuff going on. There's a Walking Dead one, which is really awesome that I played a lot the last time I was there. And so there's a lot of entertaining ones. So what I would recommend on the gaming front is that find those penny slots, and you can put in $20, $40, and stretch that out for a pretty long period of time. For those of you who are also not super familiar with kind of how the slot, in terms of like the best bets where the house edge is there, they're going to do okay on slot machines. So you're not going to like a big winner there. You're going to have a better chance if you really know how to play blackjack to go to a blackjack table and play there. But if you're not serious on that, you can definitely kill a lot of time on the penny slots. What they'll do is when you get down in there, it is 1 penny per line, but a lot of the newer games, it's like you can play up to 75 lines a spin. So your 1 penny very quickly becomes 75 cents. Mm-hmm. And then you can bet a certain number of credits. So if you're like, oh, I'm going to do 4 credits at 75 cents, all of a sudden that's a $3 spin. So you probably want to decide how you want to chop your $20 apart. If you want to do it at $3 spins in a penny slot like that, great. Or you can go to the nickel slots or quarter slots or dollar slots. As the denomination goes up, your chances of winning go up, but also you're going to tend to chew through your bankroll quicker. So. So you do that. The biggest thing, though, is that a lot of the penny slots, there's huge amounts of entertainment, and that if you go and you play a lot of them, there'll be like bonus levels, and the Star Wars ones that are there, you'll play, and there'll be like a droid hunt level where, oh, you win a droid hunt, and the R2-D2 and a bunch of other droids come up, and you have to pick one, and there's something behind that, and those types of things. So anything that keeps you from pulling the lever to put more money into the machine is a good thing for me. And a lot of the newer machines have a lot of entertainment. And whether you're into Star Wars, Walking Dead, Sex and the City, Wizard of Oz, Superman, Batman, you're going to find some pretty cool looking video applications of all of them. So, cool. So I recommend kind of the one is you can kind of decide what you want to kind of spend that night, view it as buying your ticket to the theater or whatever it's going to be, and then just kind of work it across there. And so that would be it on the gaming side. What I will point out is that Fremont Street, the slots are looser than on the Strip. So you actually tend to win more playing the same kind of machines up on Fremont Street than you will down on the Strip. So if it's about what's coming back in your pocket, that's good. Little tip for you on Fremont Street. The first two little small casinos you'll see when you walk in there are right across the street from each other. They're called Mermaids and La Bayou. They're right directly across from each other. They're about the only place, I think there's a couple other, but they're one of the few places left. Everything now is electronic. You go in, you slide your money in, you get a digital counter up there, and you get done, it prints a ticket out, you can go cash the ticket in, those types of things. Except at Mermaids and La Bayou. And those are still the old clink, clink, clink nickels and those types of things. So it's pretty cool in terms of when you're done and you've done a big payout, you hit the button and you hear lots and lots of noises, all these nickels fall down. But tip for you, $20 to $40 worth of nickels is a crap ton of nickels. and so you put in 20 and maybe you get up to 40, like time for me to leave, and you cash out. You're going to have to get 3 or 4 of these buckets and load the nickels in. Another interesting thing is nickels appear to be incredible magnets for dirt. And so as you scoop those nickels up, when you get done, you're going to have to make a second stop to wash your hands because they're going to basically be black from all the nickels from there. So
from all that dirty money.
All that dirty money as you kind of pull it in and you carry your little buckets of nickels up there. We'll kind of slide a little bit into the food side of things now because we're on Fremont Street now. We're up on the old Vegas part of town, and at Mermaids, home of the fried Oreo. So you can get fried Oreos and fried Twinkies at dirt cheap prices there, as well as ridiculously long, highly potent drinks full of Everclear, which will probably be your first and last purchase of the night if you do that. So
nice.
Be advised.
That's where I need to go.
That would take care of you. So Vegas veterans out there already know this, but for those not as familiar, the general rule is that if you're actively gaming in a casino, cocktail waitresses will come by and ask you if you want a drink, and those drinks are free while you're gaming. So if you're eking your money out, even the lowly people at the penny slots, they come by for. However, they come by a little less frequently than they do the high roller tables. But their objective is to make sure you have a drink in your hand, because that'll probably keep you in the casino and a little more open to trying some things. Always good to tip your cocktail waitress. Give her $1 or $2 each time through. That tends to have them come back a little more regularly, and particularly because apparently they don't tip really well on Fremont Street, I found out, because I gave, when I went to Mermaids the first time the cocktail waitress came up and brought me my drink, I gave her a $2 tip, and she first of all just looked completely stunned, and second of all I couldn't get halfway through my drink before she was back again. Saying, so would you like me to bring you 2? Which I was like, yeah. And so a great start. It's a great way to go, but then at some point you're kind of like, I think I'm good, thank you though. But it's also good just to kind of tip them there. But good cheap bad food for you up on Fremont Street. You're down on the Strip. on the food side. And again, I'm not giving you gourmet dining. There's lots of very, very good dining in Vegas, and maybe someone else can recommend that because I can't. I can just tell you how to do things on the cheap. Basically in the middle of the strip, there's a casino called Casino-Royale. It's probably a little bit bigger name than it should have in terms of it's not the swankiest casino on the strip.
Mm-hmm.
The hotel that's affiliated with Casino-Royale is Best Western. So Best Western on the strip is the hotel chain tied to Casino-Royale. It has for a long time been a home to Denny's. So there's a Denny's and a Baskin-Robbins.
Sounds like my place.
This is where I go because and it even gets better because they always had the Denny's. They've got an Outback Steakhouse, Baskin-Robbins, $1.99 foot-long hot dogs. You get the chili dog at the chili for an extra $1. Highly recommend adding the chili for an extra $1. So you're not really forking out a lot of cash to get some food, but they just added White Castle. So now there's a White Castle Casino Royale too, which apparently the day it opened completely clogged the center of the strip. The lines to go into White Castle were just amazing. So for kind of greasy, grab a snack, whatever you want to stuff, Casino Royale, you can't beat it. Basically it's a smaller gaming floor, but the bar is directly next to the gaming floor. And at any time, if your cocktail waitress isn't coming up really quick, you can just simply go up to the bar, and it's $1 for a Michelob, and so it's like a little margarita in a glass too. Those are $1, so just kind of cheap there. And then also the table game prices at Casino Royale are probably about the cheapest you're going to find on the strip, outside of Circus, which I'll talk about in a second. And so you can go to like a roulette. Becomes kind of my next. If I'm not playing slots, I could go play roulette because there's not a lot of. Although I did find there's certain rules to how you play roulette, and I was able to in 15 minutes break every single one of them because I didn't know what I was doing. But I've been coached up on that. There are things like you need to stay in your chair. You don't get up and walk around the table to try and place your chips. That's very bad to do. It seemed to me I wanted a chip at the top. I should walk over and do it, but that's not what you do. You stay in your chair.
What are you supposed to do?
Hand it to the person that spins the wheel and ask them to place it for you on there.
Oh, okay.
So definitely don't want to do that. And then there's certain times when your hands need to be pretty far away from the table, and I failed on that a few times. So just some tips there.
I'm sure you're not the only one. I wouldn't have a clue. I don't gamble. Slot machines are the only thing I have. Well, no, I've played blackjack, but yeah, not my thing either. I don't like to lose money, and I lose.
Yeah, and most people do. I mean, that's what's going to happen. That's why the why I'm a big penny slot night. You're not going to get rich. You're not going to get a retirement, but typically you're going to be entertained for a long period of time. You're going to actually spend a fair amount of time poking the machine, doing different kinds of things that are not involving money leaving your pocket and going into the casino's pocket. And you can find some sort of theme that's at least interesting or intriguing. The Star Wars ones, they've continued to have several different versions of them. Those have all been pretty fun and cool. So so that's kind of worth a shot there. The only other place from a good kind of inexpensive eats, and this is probably the uppest scale inexpensive eats, is the Earl of Sandwich in Planet Hollywood, which big deli sandwiches at the Earl Sandwich, and you leave spending under $10. I mean, you get a big old mound of food for less than $10. It's a nice place to come just grab a place and sit down. So I wanted to say if you get there, hit that. My last one to say is that, don't forget about your friend Walgreens. The Walgreens in Las Vegas are wonderful in terms of they also have like mini delis inside of them. So if you're there and you say, you know what, I want to grab a sandwich before I go out tonight, you can actually go into, there's like 2 or 3 Walgreens actually on the strip, and you go into them and they have actually a pretty respectable deli-ish kind of type of thing to grab a quick variety of sandwiches or something like that. So you don't have to drop a lot of cash. So last thing I'll talk about is the entertainment side, is that you can play games. The people watching in Las Vegas is second to none. It's an amazing mix of folks. Anybody stops you on the street, tells you their car broke down and they only need $20 to do this, and just keep walking. Highly recommend that. because that'll happen with some regularity as well. But if you're looking to kind of be entertained, the Strip is a fantastic place to do that outside the people watching, and that basically within that area, you can go in front of the Mirage in the evening, watch a volcano show go off. You can go down in front of Bellagio, see a very cool fountain synchronized to music type of thing. If you go into Caesar's Palace, there's a Caesar's Shops section, which is a big mall, a lot of upscale stores, a lot of mid-range stores there as well. In the center, there's a series of statues that and I believe it's an hourly basis in the evening, come alive and tell the story of Atlantis. So all of the different type of things. So you just see all these kind of neat, entertaining things. So you can kind of mark your time. And I also recommend walking most of the Strip, and it's a long walk to go between the various casinos, but to just kind of go in and see the Venetian, see the Bellagio, see the Wynn, just the inside of it, because they're cool. You're seeing less and less of the highly themed casinos. So like the Luxor, which is the large pyramid, used to go hardcore Egyptian, and you could actually ride. There was like a little ride where you could go around the exterior or the interior of the pyramid, sort of around the perimeter, and you were getting the Las Vegas version of Egyptian history, which I'm sure had a few holes in it, but at the same point in time, there's a mob museum, there's a CSI type of thing. If you're down by Fremont Street again, there's the Neon Boneyard, where you can go back and just basically see a lot of the old Vegas material that have for the various hotels and those things that have closed down. Really kind of cool Art Deco, retro kind of stuff going on there. So there's a lot of ways to not have a big bankroll and kill a lot of time. Hit those penny slots, hit Casino Royale for your eating needs. You want to scale it up, hit Earl of Sandwich, and do a night at Fremont. Stay away from Fremont Street on the weekends. Draws a really, really young crowd, a really, really boisterous crowd, and what becomes very rapidly a really, really drunk crowd. So for most of us who may not want to deal with that weekday, I highly recommend probably a Friday or Saturday night on Fremont's not a good idea. However, I'm sure if and when Mel goes there, the one thing she will absolutely be doing is there's the world's largest slot machine called Slotzilla at Fremont Street. And at the top of Slotzilla is the start of a zip line that runs basically the entire length of Fremont Street.
Oh, really?
Yes. So you could do a little zip lining if you wanted to there, which I was all about. I thought it would be fantastic to do until I read recently that somebody got stuck about midway and was up there for about an hour and a half.
Not cool.
That probably wouldn't be great.
That probably happens on every zip line occasionally, though.
You got to think. But I've only seen one story of it, so odds are good. You're probably fine.
Yeah.
But a lot of interesting things to see. A lot of things you can do where you're not going to have, like I said, tons of money going out. If you're not required to eat high level cuisine at all points in time, there's lots of places you can go grab a quick bite and some good things to do, and it's kind of fun. But I do recommend trying to hit a lot of the casinos. I had mentioned the tables for like blackjack and roulette and those types and craps. Casino Royale is really good for that in terms of low prices. The other one that's comparable to that would be Circus, which is a little bit further north on the Strip, and they have like a whole dedicated slots of fun section where it's all slot machines and all those types of things. And there I found their table dealers slightly friendlier than Casino Royale's table dealers, in that when you're a complete mope like I was, they helped me along. They said, you really shouldn't do that, or here's what you need to do there, and they coached me in a nice way. So a couple of places there. So you can go to some places like do a Google search on Cheapo Las Vegas. You'll go to the Casino Boys Cheapo site, and he has a nice blog where he kind of covers casino by casino, which are the ones with the lowest table rates, which are the ones that, it will give you an idea to say, I'd like to try video poker, but where's the good places to go? It'll tell you that and all that. Mm-hmm. So like I said, a little bit different recommendation, but if you ever have the opportunity to be out there and you're looking to save a little money, I wanted to give you a couple of tips on at least how I approach it in not a high-class way, but have fun. So that's my recommendation for the week.
I've never been to Vegas. I've been to the airport.
Where there are slot machines?
Where there are slot machines, yes. I've been to Reno, though. I've been to the casinos in Reno, but it was a long time ago. They didn't have all the video game type slot machines when I was, which really says how long ago I was there.
Yeah, it is pretty amazing the production value that goes into some of these now
Hmm.
is pretty cool.
It sounds like it might be more entertaining than I've thought it was. I mean, I haven't had any desire to go. I'm not a gambler in any way, shape, or form. I mean, I played the nickel slots, and I don't know. I may have spent $20 and I didn't win anything. And I was like, okay, I'm done. Time to wander around. Yeah, and we wandered around and just looked at things. Yeah, because I just don't gamble. I work hard for my money. I can't afford to throw it away.
Yeah, and that's some of the psychology there in terms of it has been from the beginning that as rapidly as possible they want you to take your cash money and convert it into these worthless pieces of plastic because there's a whole difference of throwing 5 black pieces of plastic down versus throwing 5 $100 bills down on a table in
Yeah.
terms of what you're doing to yourself. At least for me,
Yes.
mentally, it would be like, I
Yeah,
can't.
they're hoping you're drunk enough you don't know what those chips stand for
Yeah,
anymore.
it's just, oh sure, I'll do another one. It's like I don't, yeah, I there's no pleasure for me in that. But it is kind of fun to, like I said, hit. I like I said, no, it's not the best odds in town, but I'll be entertained. For $20, maybe $40 over the evening, I'll be entertained. Hitting the slot machines. Every once in a while,
Yeah.
somebody's going to come by and give me a free drink. What's not to like? you
Yeah,
know?
that was the best part. That was the best part. Yeah, I'd like another
Yeah,
drink. Thank
yeah.
you.
Go ahead. I'll be good. Yeah.
Oh, well, that's fun. I might need to actually go one of these days. 'Cause Kelly likes the Vegas.
Yeah, maybe that's where we'll hold the Kettlehead convention. we'll have
Yes,
when we can do something there.
that sounds excellent. So, my recommendation this week is a book, but this is a book that I was really, really very pleasantly surprised about. So that's why I'm going to tell all of you about it. It's actually from 2011 is when it was released, and it's an urban fantasy called Dead on the Delta by a lady named Stacy J. Now, she normally writes young adult, and this is not a young adult book, but it's full in urban fantasy. And I don't know about all of you out there. If you're urban fantasy readers, which, several things I've recommended have been urban fantasy, Dresden Files, Stephen Blackmore's books, all of that. Those are technically urban fantasies. I always get a little bit nervous when I come across a new urban fantasy book that sounds really cool, but it has a female protagonist because there is a very large tendency in those type of books these days to make it all about her love interests and all about romance and et cetera and so forth. And while I don't mind romance in a book, I don't want that to be the entire story. So, I really went into this book with no expectations. It sounded good to me. I read the description, I liked it. And then one of the kickers was one of my social media recommendations in the past at Airdani99 told me it was good. And I was like, okay. So I've actually had a real person tell me they like this book, and I'm going to read it. So the premise of this book is really kind of neat. I found this whole thing to be really kind of a refreshing take on just the whole genre. This book takes place in Louisiana on the bayou, and fairies have are real. Now, most of the time in urban fantasy, you're going to be when you're talking about the fae or fairies, you're talking about, some really tall, hot, blonde, elven warrior. These are like Tinkerbell. These are little bitty fairies. And what actually happens is that due to some eco-terrorist type stuff, basically, I don't know, sabotaging a chemical plant, a whole bunch of toxins got flooded out into the waterways. And before this happened, these nobody even knew fairies existed. They were very tiny. Nobody had ever actually seen them, and they were so small that they could not even so much as bite a person. Well, they mutated after all of this exposure to this toxic nastiness that got released into the environment. And all of a sudden, they got Hard to say, the size of from, large bugs to small birds. They're big enough to actually bite people now, and they have these like hinged jaws that can unhinge so that they can get a good bite of you. Before this happened, they fed off of animals in the swamps. But what they find they really, 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 really like better than anything in the entire world is human blood. So they
Never, yeah,
swarm.
yeah.
They
So,
swarm the South.
so a couple questions for you on that is, so
Okay.
this is lots of dialogue. I'm assuming a lot of Cajun-esque dialogue from the characters. I don't know.
No, not
So,
really.
oh, okay. Because I was wondering if
No.
they actually would do like they do in on television, have like subcaptions for it in the book, where they'd say the
No.
Cajun thing and then it'd be followed by
Yeah.
the sentence in English.
No, they actually, they'll use some Southern terminology thrown in there, but it's actually very readable. I'm in Texas, not Cajun, don't speak Cajun, so I wouldn't have been able to read the book if it was like that.
Do
But
the
there
fairies
are,
have accents?
pardon me.
Do the fairies have accents?
The
Which would be
fairies
awesome.
actually don't talk. They
Oh,
have no language. At least that's what everybody thinks. So, what's the big deal? Some little fairies biting you. Well, the bite turns out to be venomous. So, either you immediately die or you take a long time to die and you go crazy. Only a very, very small percentage of the population is actually immune to fairy venom. And our main character, Annabell Lee,
of
which is a
course.
name that I like
Yeah, it's a nice name.
for obvious reasons, um, she is one of the immune, which what has happened because these fairies need to be in warm areas. They don't like the cold. They are basically just in the south. And they attacked everything. When they swarmed, they basically attacked entire cities. People died by the droves. It was an apocalypse. But like common lore would have, fairies don't like iron. So what has happened for all of the people who have stuck it out and stayed in the South, their cities are basically lined with big iron fences to keep the fairies out. She, being immune, has now there's an entire new division of the government called Fairy Containment and Control. And she is an FCC agent and stationed in this small town. And what her job is basically, essentially, to wander out into the swamps, to wade out there, and she collects fairy poo to send back for them to study, for them to try and tell how fast they're mutating, things like that. That's technically her job. But because she is also the only immune person in this town, whenever the police need help with, say, a body that's found outside the gate in the swamp, she's the one that has to go out and collect the body, collect the samples for the coroner, do all of that because normal people, if they venture outside the fence, they're going to get bit and they're going to die or they're going to go insane. There are now all of these facilities for people who have been bit for them to live out the rest of their lives. If you are found with a bite on you, you are immediately, without passing go, sent off to one of these facilities and it's over for you. Period. End of story. So
So
being bit is
do the
bad news.
so do the fairies, for the immune people, are they just immune that a fairy bite doesn't affect them, or are the fairies
Yes.
have no interest in even biting them?
No, they will normally avoid them, but they will occasionally bite. If they get into some sort of feeding frenzy, they will bite an immune person, but they actually can get close enough to them and smell that they're bad. And so they will generally stay away from an immune person. So much so that like when she sweats, this is real attractive when she sweats, she finds this stray cat as she's wading through the swamp, and the cat won't go away, and it has jumped into the little trailer that she rides her bicycle everywhere. And so when she goes leaves the cat by the bike and she goes wading out into the swamp, she actually wipes some of her sweat on the cat to help keep the fairies off, because they will go after animals, but what they really like are people, but they will go after animals. So anyway, that's the premise. So she gets to do a lot of nasty jobs for the police, and that's what happens in this book. Is the body of a little girl is found outside the fence, and rather traumatic that she has to go out and collect this body and collect the samples. And of course, it's a small town. She recognizes who the little girl is, and all of that. So that's the premise of the story. It's basically a murder mystery. We're trying to figure out who killed this little girl and why. Now, the better part that I really liked about this book is that Annabell Lee is not a wonderfully good person. She is very, very flawed. She rides a bicycle because she drinks so much. She doesn't trust herself to drive a car. She drinks morning, noon, and night if she can get away with it. She has been through, you find out through the course of the book, she's been through some traumatic events in her life. Hurricane Katrina, the South is still recovering from Hurricane Katrina, which of course did not help with the ferry situation. So you've got a lot of that going on, but she is a very big believer in swearing at every opportunity. This is why this is not a YA book like the author normally writes, because there is a lot of language in this book. She is actually dating one of the town's only detectives, and they do try, there is the introduction of what could be a love triangle, but there is very little romance at all in this book, and that's one of the things that I absolutely love about it. Any of the issues that come up are actually handled in an adult and believable way. But I just love her character. She is such a hard case, and her language is very colorful, very colorful. I learned a few things, and I thought I knew most of the things that got thrown around in the South, but I learned a few new words,
There you go.
and that's hard. So she is somebody who is actually hard for anybody in the town to actually like. She's lazy. Basically, the job that she holds with the FCC is very entry level. Somebody who is her age and who has been doing this job for as long as she's been doing should have been promoted up out of this kind of crap job. She wanders into the swamp and collects fairy poo. That's her job. It's for the interns, it's for the newbies, it's not for somebody's big career path. But this is actually a rather high paying job in this poor small town. So she actually donates most of her money. One of her better qualities, she donates most of her money to an orphanage where she actually spent some time. But she's got a lot of flaws, but they're believable flaws. A lot of times in these sort of books, you know, there's really over the top craziness that ensues. She is a believable character, and it was really refreshing to come across that in a female character in urban fantasy, especially as the main character of a book. There is a second book out to this one. I have not read it yet, but it is on my list to be read because I really, really loved this book. It's got over 2,000 ratings on Goodreads, and overall it's got a 3.67 stars on Goodreads, and that's really good for having over 2,000 ratings. It doesn't have nearly that many ratings on Amazon, and right now it's at 4 stars. And it's been out for quite a while, and I had never heard of it before, so I thought I would just spread the word. If you like reading stuff that's Southern centered and you want to find out what happens when the fairy apocalypse hits, then this is totally the book for you. It was a great, fun read, and it was fast-paced from the beginning to the end. There's not very much time wasted at all on world building. You find out what you need to know as it comes up, and it's really, I loved that about it as well, that it was very fast-paced. The ending felt a little bit rushed because of that, but all in all, it was a great book. I gave it 4 stars on Goodreads. I really enjoyed it. And I was very, very pleasantly surprised because I went into it really not expecting very much, expecting just some generic urban fantasy story. And it really was not at all. It was very different. And I will read anything else Stacy J puts out about Annabell Lee because I thought it was really great. So, Dead on the Delta by Stacy J. It's available everywhere. It was never issued in hardcover, but there's a paperback, ebooks, the whole thing. So,
Cool.
I suggest everybody go read it.
Sounds pretty awesome. So I have my last two follow-up questions. So the percentage, and these are more focused follow-up questions than usual for me. So
Okay.
so what is there a rough percentage of, so you get a fairy bite, the unhinged jaw still creeping me out, but
Hmm.
a fairy bite, one of two outcomes, instant death or you go crazy eventually.
Yes.
Is it a 50-50 proposition, or do most people die, or do most people go crazy, or is it hard to tell in the story?
It seems like I don't know if it's quite half of all people, but I got the impression that it was close to half of all people
Okay.
are going to die. And it's a very painful, agonizing death, but it's a very quick one. You immediately go into convulsions, things like that from what it said. So I think it was roughly half and half.
Okay.
So the crazy people start exhibiting symptoms pretty quickly after a bite. One thing I forgot to mention was another thing that factors heavily into the book is a drug called Breeze. And Breeze is made out of fairy poop and bleach, and it is the hottest designer drug out there. And that's part of what she has to look for when she goes out into the swamp is for these little trailers that are out there making breeze. So it factors heavily into the story that that's the meth of this world is this drug called breeze that's made out of fairy poop.
And bleach. I mean, we might have Jesse Pinkman out there somewhere for all we know. His
Yes.
second career.
Yes.
So my last question was, are there any unique properties to fairy outside of apparently making a bang up drug? The is does it glitter? Does it glow? Fairy poo? Was there any
No.
description, or is it just more dropping like anything
No,
else?
it seems like it's like sort of like small rodent droppings,
Gotcha. Okay.
little stuff like that. The fairies in here are pretty interesting. Towards the end of the book, you start to get hints that maybe there's more to the fairies than was originally thought. And there might be hints that there's more, I don't know, magical type stuff that might come out because of all of this. But yeah, it's pretty
Okay.
straight. It's a pretty, crime-based sort of drama with a little bit of this fairy weirdness thrown in. And I like the term fairy apocalypse.
It's pretty awesome.
I like it. It was a great book. I really highly recommend it. So it was great fun.
Excellent. Very cool. Great. Well, we'll go ahead and just jump right into social media recommendations. I'm going to cheat this week and do two because I really don't think you can do one with this for what I'm going to recommend here. They go together. I mentioned that Mel and I will at some point be involved in a planning process for a Kettlehead convention. And where that comes from is for those of you who are watching Better Call Saul, and hopefully if you're watching Better Call Saul, you're also watching Assault and Battery right after it, where Mel and I chat about the show, favorite quotes, and those types of things. But a couple awesome characters in this new universe are the Kettlemans, Craig and Betsy Kettleman. They're just awesome. I can't really describe them beyond the fact of Betsy's very driven and feels she has points to make and makes them with great enthusiasm. They sound a little crazy sometimes, but she's serious as a heart attack, man. She's just on it. And she does appear to basically run Craig. And I think that he's just kind of in her shadow. But they're just fascinating to watch together. And the actors that play these two characters are outstanding, and they're my recommendation for this week. So the actress that plays Betsy Kettleman is Julie Ann Emery. Sorry, Julie Ann Emery, and her Twitter handle is Julie Ann Emery, Emery, and it's Ann with no E, and we'll have the link to it in the blog post. And Jeremy Shamos is Craig, and Jeremy's handle is Jeremy Shamos, which is JeremyShamos. And we'll have both of these links in the blog post. But fantastic actors, awesome characters, and they're very friendly on Twitter. That if you're on there and you just compliment them for the work that they did, or if you've seen an episode and like it and give them a shout out, you'll quite frequently get a thank you back. They're just really nice folks. The term Kettlehead has now come up to group us as those of us who are fans of the Kettlemans. They really like Kettlehead, and we'll use it as well. I've got a Twitter list called Kettleheads that I'll be more than happy to add any of you on. If you're a Kettlehead as well, just go ahead and tweet me, and I'll get you on that list. But they're just pretty awesome. They're fun to listen. They're fun to follow on Twitter. Jeremy's significantly less active than Julie, but they're both pretty cool. So that's my recommendation.
Yeah, and we've said before, we always love when these actors interact with us, and the Kettlemans are truly one of a kind. If you're not watching Better Call Saul, that is a significant reason to be watching the show. They do such an amazing job together of making that couple seem so realistic in their crazy train way. So it's phenomenal, and I believe on the Breaking Bad Insider cast, or the Better Call Saul Insider cast, I'm sorry, they talked about how blown away they were by how well they got along. They were finishing each other's sentences and things like that, like they, were these people. It was amazing. So it's a great show. So you should totally follow them and join the Kettlehead army.
Absolutely.
So my social recommendation is not going to be anything that cool. Mine is a little account called @slothfacts, like the sloth, the animal. And I'm going to tell you why. Because they put out amazing little tweets like this one. Studies show 100% of living sloths were born. And I just came across that one day, and I was obviously having a day, and that just cracked me up. So I'm going to recommend that you follow @slothfacts. They tend to tweet in bursts, and then be quiet for a while, and then come back with a few more. Occasionally there's cute sloth pictures thrown in there, but yeah, it's obvious facts about sloths.
I like it.
So
I did not know that 100. So I'm better educated now. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, it was just funny. I couldn't help it.
There's just it's amazing to me the really kind of clever little twisted things that come up. That the concept itself is basically fairly simple, but it's also kind of brilliant. That when you come up with it and you can kind of keep executing against it, and something like sloth facts is right in there. So that sounds
and
great.
they're totally obvious sloth facts. There's no scientific basis to any of them. So it's cute. I don't know why I like it so much, but I do.
That's fine. That's what Twitter's there for, partially.
Yes.
Excellent. Speaking of sloths, we're going to hand it over to Matt, who's going to go ahead and I hope he hears some of this, because I'm wasting a lot of good material picking on him if he doesn't make it to this part of the podcast.
Yeah.
But we will turn it over to our good buddy Matt, who will give you all the information on how you can contact us, interact with us, share ideas, share recommendations that we'd be happy to share on the show for you. Just let us know what's going on. Don't forget, you can go out on YouTube, just go into your good old YouTube search and search on Nurture and Support. With the ampersand, you're going to start finding lots and lots of our previous episodes out on YouTube now, and we're going to keep putting them out there too. So there's a couple different ways you can listen to Nurture and Support however you choose to. So with that, we'll hand it over to Matt, and looking forward to seeing everybody again next week. So goodbye from me.
Thanks, everybody.
You can contact us on our website, nurtureandsupport.net, or email us at nurtandsupp@gmail.com. That's NURTANDSUPP@gmail.com, or tweet us at nurtandsupp on Twitter.
Nurturing and supporting. Darn it.